You will see the whole country has joined the movement.
The Shah is a monarch positioning himself.
I also saw something, I read something. The Shah? Oh, you guys have to help me. You guys are geniuses. He did like a really, really big party for a certain occasion. He did a massive party, and that really made the Muslims and everyone in the country really mad. Nuclear warhead program. Ooh. Let's do a microchip power plant. He did like a crazy party that cost millions while everyone was starving. And that was like, people were like, damn, bro. Like, dude, that's not cool, dude.
As a paternal figure. He centralizes power by appointing loyal but usually indecisive ministers and outlawing political parties. In 1975, all adult men must join the Shah's Rastakhi's party, while Iran's secret police, the Savak, suppress underground parties like the National Front and the Communist Tudeh. While the White Revolution benefits secular urbanites, others...
But it's like the same in the West.
Rapid modernization brings inflation, corruption, income inequality, social tensions, and inefficiency. As rural workers move to cities for better pay, many discover that they've rarely benefited from the Shah's policies. One villager from Aliabad complains, "We have nothing in this country. We see that others are rich and have 7- or 8-story homes, and we live in tents. It takes us 1 or 2 months to get something done in government offices, and the other side had good connections and is able to ruin us. If they attack us and fight us and we go to court, the court does nothing because they are in cahoots with them." Officials reinvest much of Iran's oil income back into industry or the military, but little of Iran's 1972 to 74 oil boom goes to the countryside. The Shah's reforms split Iranian society into distinct groups. And as unemployment and corruption increase following a crash in oil prices in 1975, some begin to oppose his central rule. Leftist intellectuals opposing royal absolutism and US interference joined the National Front, or Tudeh, while more radical leftists joined the Marxist-Leninist Fedayin-e-Khalq or the Islamic Marxist Mujahideen.
Who wins in the end? I don't know, like Islam wins in the end, right? Just check everything. And yeah, maybe one day we're gonna make money. One day.
Khalq. Both militant organizations conduct small-scale attacks and assassinations. Other Iranian intellectuals remain independent of major organizations, partly to avoid Savak's attention. The most influential opponents are religious clerics. Many oppose the White Revolution's secularism, as well as corruption, foreign influence, and the Shah's central power. As religious figures, they also partly escape Savak's repressions and combine political messages into sermons. The most notable anti-Shah cleric is Ayatollah Khomeini. Since the early 1960s, he's openly opposed the Shah, who exiles the Ayatollah to Iraq. Described as a revolutionary traditionalist, Khomeini claims democratic republican ideals within an Islamic context. These appeal to young rural men from traditional backgrounds who now have formal education and work in cities. Those who are out in society more and go into Shiraz are for Khomeini, but the old men who haven't studied and don't go into the city much aren't. There's a difference between those whose level of thinking is lower, who are illiterate and haven't seen much of the situation, and those whose level of thinking is higher. Khomeini also benefits from clerics' historical role as leaders of popular resistance movements. By early 1978, economic crisis and political agitation lead to protests. When security forces react and kill some protesters, the funerals draw huge crowds. The Shah seems genuinely surprised by events which are spontaneous and contradict his self-perception
no women allowed, though.
As a beloved figure. The US is also surprised.
There's a focus called Reclaim Control.
They lack information about Iran or Khomeini and consider the Shah's position stable.
Dude, I don't want to be an asshole, man, but if you're in a crowd like this ever, whether it's Nazis or religious fundamentalists, you are at the wrong place. If you ever are in a crowd like this, where a bunch of men, wherever you're from, it's never a good idea. It's never a good idea.
In August, riots erupt in major cities, coupled with attacks on symbols of modernization and foreign influence. On August 19th, Islamic extremists set fire to the cinema Rex, killing up to 470 people.
Jesus!
But many Iranians believe the hated Savak is
responsible. Civilians in a cinema, man. What the fuck? Just do the revolution.
Clashes between protesters and security forces soon multiply, especially at mosques and colleges. Student Mohammed Amini struggles with police at a teachers' college. The police took up positions and attacked us. We fought them with our rocks. A violent struggle broke out, but we weren't an equal match for them. We were forced to retreat. When we went back into the college yard, I noticed the dean was watching from his window and laughing. At that very moment, a student threw a rock at him. The window shattered. The Shah orders the military not to use significant force, but the response is uneven. Some ministers encourage the Shah to make reforms, including legalizing political opposition and adopting the Islamic calendar. Pahlavi also appoints new Prime Minister Jafar Sharif Imami to oversee a government of reconciliation. But the reforms satisfy few opponents, and released political prisoners join and lead opposition groups. On September 7th, the Shah orders martial law, which bans public gatherings and imposes a curfew. The next day, protesters, many of whom have likely not yet heard the martial law announcement, gather in Jaleh Square, where government troops fire on them. They kill 68 and wound 205, but some opposition sources claim up to 5,000 casualties. The event, known as Black Friday, causes confusion amongst the authorities, as both ministers and local commanders hesitate to apply martial law. There's also fraternization between protesters and troops. Most soldiers are conscripts from rural areas and are receptive to opposition clerics' religious messages of solidarity or threats to excommunicate soldiers. Most of the army stays loyal, but Chief of the General Staff, General Abbas Garabaghi, is worried and addresses the troops. At this critical point in our history, I want to urge you to maintain discipline, unity, and obedience to command.
And when a country has a revolution, it's a weird time, huh? I never felt it in my life, hopefully never will. Crazy shit though.
Be aware of ill-wishers and agitators who wish to split your ranks. Important not to yield to emotional factors and continue to support the legitimate government. Throughout late 1978, large protests run parallel with religious marches. Although some ministers advise banning them, the Shah allows them to avoid further enraging protests. But it doesn't work, and the entire Iranian free media and institutions like the central bank now favor the opposition. The Shah tries to position himself as leader of a revolution against corrupt officials, while simultaneously announcing a new military cabinet in
This is German guns. This is the G3A3, I'm quite sure. The Germans sold that to all these people. I generally, no joke, have a scar of a G3. When I was 18, I had an internship at the army, and I got my finger stuck while reassembling it, and I have a scar from it. Great fucking dad story. Improved computers, let's go.
November.
Terrible gun though.
Henry Precht, the US State Department's Iran country director, notes the inconsistency.
They always told me in the army we sold it to the Turks and all the Middle East because it's such a shit gun. We don't need it anymore.
The Shah was following a bifurcated policy. On the one hand, the regime had shot a lot of people. On the other hand, he tried to appeal to the population by appointing a new prime minister. It was a confusing time if you were not an Iranian. Is he soft or is he hard? In fact, he was
both. The G3 is fantastic. No, that is not true. The G3 is very clunky. It has a lot of jamming issues. If you ever disassemble and reassemble it, it's very complicated. A lot of mechanical stuff. No.
Looking for a solution.
My favorite weapon, though, in the radio now.
The US reaction is muted. Even before the revolution, President Jimmy Carter cooled relations with Iran due to human rights issues. But Iran is still a vital Cold War ally and receives large amounts of sophisticated weapons like F-14 aircraft. Although some US officials want Carter to support the Shah, some State Department figures advise reaching out to Khomeini's entourage, especially Dr. Ebrahim Yazdi, a naturalized US citizen. The inconsistent US response leads the Shah to conclude that they're working with Khomeini against him, which isn't true. So the Shah and his government can't get the unrest under control in 1978, and things soon escalate in 1979. In January, the Shah appoints Prime Minister Shapur Bakhtiar to create a new civilian government. Bakhtiar belongs to the banned National Front, so the Shah hopes the new government will calm the protests. Bakhtiar orders political... prisoners released, relaxes censorship and martial law, and suggests disbanding Savak and negotiating with Khomeini. Khomeini refuses, and Bakhtiar concludes the Shah's presence is blocking any deal. He encourages the Shah to leave Iran. Even as the military insists, the monarch's presence is the only thing maintaining the morale of the army. On January 16th, though, the Shah leaves Iran for Morocco. He says it's for health reasons.
You can't fucking do that, you fucking moron. What a fucking moron. The biggest crisis ever, and he takes like a nice little family trip. Fuck that guy, man. Fully deserved downfall.
Partly true, as he does have leukemia, though this is not public knowledge yet.
Oh, he has leukemia.
Henry Precht suggests the diagnosis does play a role. In retrospect, we know now that he knew he was a sick man, and what he wanted more than anything was to pass on to his son a viable monarchy. He wanted his son to inherit the throne. He was afraid if he slaughtered people in the streets and turned over to a teenager a situation he could not handle, the dynasty would be swept aside. When the Shah leaves, protests grow and soldiers defect en masse, up to 12,000 a day.
Why would you leave, you fucking
Air Force,
idiot?
With many educated technicians, is especially
I'd be
rebellious.
If I was a loyalist of the Shah, this is for him. It's for him. Where is he? He's having a nice vacation in the mountains of Morocco? Bro, I'm fucking gone. I'm defecting instantly. What the fuck? Stupid idiot. Let me check if there's any important things. Is there this money program again? No. Productivity growth for a while. Money.
Hundreds go on hunger strikes against the closing of Tehran airport, which blocks Khomeini's return to Iran. As protesters clash with demoralized Air Force troops guarding the airport, Bakhtiar reopens it.
Investing in me.
On February 1st, Khomeini returns to Tehran from Paris, where he is gone after being expelled from Iraq.
Well,
About
not that, but income. We're actually getting close now to actually making money soon. We are getting close. We are getting closer. So much closer. Productivity goes up. Corruption is easier to get rid of. And you pay less for bureaucracy. Okay, come on.
A million Iranians take to the streets to welcome him. He quickly establishes the Provisional Revolutionary Government and takes over government ministries, including foreign affairs, finance, and justice. Bakhtiar attempts to incorporate Khomeini's shadow cabinet into his own, but Khomeini doesn't cooperate. On February 11th, loyal Imperial Guard troops clash with rebellious Air Force cadets at Doshan Tepe Air Base. Armed civilians join the cadets and capture a machine gun factory. The Air Force refuses to bomb the facility, forcing a crisis of allegiance for commanders. Many now favor Khomeini, and on February 11th, the army declares neutrality. This seals the fate of the Shah's government, as even loyal. Once we were named the Imperial Guard. Today, we accept whatever name people will give us. We have ordered the surrender of all units under our command. Bakhtiar resigns and flees, while Khomeini takes control and dismantles martial law. He is now the de facto leader of Iran. So the Shah and his government have fallen, but Iran experiences revolutionary chaos in the following weeks, made worse by the 300,000 weapons in circulation after the collapse of the army. Many groups of young men self-appoint revolutionary committees. Some take up police duties, including arresting supposed counter-revolutionaries. One armed group, the Party of God, or Hezbollahis, pledged themselves to Khomeini, but he exercises only limited control. His provisional government cannot prevent revolutionary courts summarily trying and executing 68 people, including military leaders. Tension also develops with the US. In February, protesters stormed the US embassy, resulting in a...
Isn't that the movie of Ben Affleck? That's the Ben Affleck movie, right? I think so.
Brief hostage crisis. Both sides quickly de-escalate, but the development concerns the US, who initially hoped to normalize relations with the new regime. Many in the US are stunned at the Shah's rapid collapse. How could Iran, with its oil and strategic situation between the Soviet Union and the Persian Gulf, between Europe and the Middle East, fall under the sway of a holy man out of the mists of the 13th century? How could the Shah, a monarch who commanded more tanks than the British Army, more helicopters than the United States 1st Cavalry in Vietnam, be pressured so neatly out of power? The answer is partly the wide inter-opposition support for Khomeini. To maintain this, he appoints moderate nationalist Mehdi Bazargan as Prime Minister of the new republic. In March, Khomeini orders a referendum on the question, should Iran be an Islamic republic? 98.2% answer yes. Observers note issues with voting, including color-coded ballots revealing voters' choices, but the results are largely considered legitimate. Even many moderates favor an Islamic republic and recognize the cleric's role in organizing revolution.
Probably a big downfall for women. It was probably pretty fucking bad for them.
Iranians disagree on how an Islamic republic should function. Moderates worry about revolutionary committees imposing strict religious morality and deteriorating international relations. Iranian-American scholar Saeed Amir Ajaman concludes, the coalition between the Shiite clerics and the westernized bourgeoisie was unstable. It rested on fraudulent silence on the part of the former and on wishful self-delusion on the part of the latter. It did not last long. Khomeini uses the divisions and the threat posed by the armed leftist groups to centralize authority. Although his regime faces some opposition, including assassinations by guerrilla groups, he maintains a stable traditionalist foundation, creates new parties, and sides
with, man, right? Iran is so much bigger than you actually think. 90 million people, bro.
With radical elements to further marginalize moderates. He also sidelines Bazargan, who wants to improve relations with the US. Events escalate again in November 1979, when the self-exiled Shah requests medical treatment.
Where is kids nowadays? What are they up to? Where do they live? They probably have a rich life in a Western country.
In the US. Carter is reluctant, but faces pressure from Shah supporters like Henry Kissinger and David Rockefeller.
I guess, but I also
when Carter finally allows
his kids are now American lapdogs. Everyone hates the West, but everybody wants to live in the West, huh?
The Shah temporary shelter, angry protesters again storm the US embassy in Tehran and take 52 hostages. Both sides expect a repeat of the rapidly resolved February crisis, but Khomeini hamstrings negotiations. Bazargan resigns in frustration, and Carter faces pressure to bring the hostages home by other means. So in April 1980, he orders Operation Eagle Claw, a special forces rescue raid. But 3 of the 8 US helicopters assigned to the mission
stock market boom. Hey, I need that.
For technical problems, while another crashes into a fuel tanker while refueling in the desert, causing an explosion that kills 8 American servicemen. The raid is a failure.
It was my responsibility as president to launch this mission. It was my responsibility to terminate the mission when it ended. This was a decision that was shared completely by the field commander in charge of the rescue team and by the officer in charge of the overall force that was involved in the rescue effort.
A president taking responsibility. Can you imagine?
I don't know what happened. They probably were leftist retards. They were gay. They had painted fingernails. That's why they died. I had nothing to do with it. Everybody says it. Everybody knows it. I'm going to tell you, you're wrong. I did nothing wrong.
There is a deeper failure.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine?
Than that of incomplete success. And that is a failure to attempt a worthy effort. A failure to try.
Eagle Claw hardens Khomeini's resolve to keep the hostages, and it's a political disaster for Carter. His approval rating is already low, and in November 1980, he loses the election to Republican Ronald Reagan. Carter's team eventually agrees to a deal with Khomeini before Reagan's inauguration. Khomeini will release the hostages in exchange for the US pledging to not interfere in Iran and unfreezing Iranian assets worth $25 billion in today's value. Iran appears to make no concessions, although some claim Khomeini secretly agrees to Israel selling arms to regional rival Iraq. The deal comes into effect 20 minutes after Reagan's inauguration, freeing the hostages after 444 days. The timing has led to allegations from Iranian and US officials that Reagan covertly encouraged Khomeini to delay releasing the hostages until his presidency began. The Iranian Revolution dramatically shifts regional and global relations. Iran extends its influence across the Middle East, including by exporting Hezbollah as a militant group supporting Shia Muslim minorities in Arab states like Lebanon. The US loses a major ally in the region and looks for new allies opposed to Iranian hegemony, like Saudi Arabia and Israel. Meanwhile, anti-American rhetoric becomes a cornerstone of Khomeini's position as supreme ruler and propaganda against Iranian moderates. It's a policy that continues until today, although political analyst Suzanne Maloney notes a certain irony. By grounding its identity and legitimacy in anti-Americanism, Tehran remains just as firmly contingent upon the United States as the Shah ever was. Iran's revolution has the largest impact on its neighbors. Although Iraq's Saddam Hussein hosted Khomeini for years, this relationship of convenience soured when Iraq deported Khomeini shortly before his return to Iran. The revolution also undermines previous Iran-Iraq
complex thing, huh? It's so complex, man. Next corruption soon.
Agreements which resolved border disputes and barred Iran from supporting separatist Iraqi Kurds and anti-Saddam Shia movements. As Khomeini continues to suppress internal opponents throughout 1980, revolution gives way to what some call the 20th century's last total war. The Iran-Iraq War was supposed to be an easy victory, cementing Saddam Hussein's legacy as defender of the Arab world. Domestically, his Ba'ath regime ruled with an iron...
As a white German man, I never understand why they're killing each other. Aren't you guys the same? Same hair colors, same religion, kinda? Why the fuck you fucking each other up, man? It's so stupid.
...fist, and Saddam was preparing his son Uday to one day take over. If you want to learn more about Uday Hussein, the so-called Mad Prince of Iraq, you should check out Real Life Lore's new series, Mad Kings, on Nebula.
The same. It's just stupid from a foreign standpoint.
In the first episode, like, you'll learn more about Saddam's rule and Uday's upbringing and his descent into madness. Mad Kings is one of many exclusive documentary series on Nebula, a streaming service we're building together with other creators.
She slipped in my fingers like sand, heard that she had a man, now I'm just sitting here sad. Oh well, ship sail, she slipped in my fingers like sand.